Welcome back to the FanSpeak Network. Another Sunday in the National Football League has passed, which means another opportunity to overreact to what we saw yesterday. This is the FanSpeak Network, brought to you by fanspeak.com, your home for the best NFL betting, best ball, and daily fantasy advice. Tyler, we saw another Sunday in the book. We're going to go over each game. Get your overall thoughts on what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, it was a fun Sunday. There was a couple good games. I mean, it was sad to see Rashee Rice go down at the hands of his own quarterback. So interested to see what they do from there. And then Baltimore, I mean, they beat the hell out of the Bills on Sunday night. So that was an impressive showing from Baltimore. Outside of that, I mean, everything else stayed true to its colors, it seemed like.
JC, your thoughts on the overall slate yesterday before we dive in game by game?
Yeah, pretty solid. Really feels like we got things kind of straightened out here on the season. I don't know much. Y'all had a much better week, but it feels like predictions were more in line with what we expected. Of course, there's a few upsets, as there's always going to be, but I didn't exit this Sunday feeling like an idiot. A lot of my predictions were in line with what I thought, and I'm a lot happier this Monday.
Great. Well, good to see that we're doing well. The season's diving in, but you're right, still as unpredictable as ever here. Let's start with what we saw last Thursday night, and that was, boy, it's so long ago I can barely remember. Last Thursday night we saw the Cowboys. They were able to get the win, but they did not cover, and the game went under. Tyler, what do we do with the Cowboys and the Giants in our power rankings based off what we saw last Thursday night?
Maybe downgrade the Dallas Cowboys a little bit. Their defense doesn't look like it is there at all. They don't have really much of a defense, and I still leave the Giants where they're at. I don't upgrade them at all. I still think they suck. It's just Dallas wasn't able to get much pressure, and then they lost Parsons and Lawrence in that game, so Daniel Jones was just able to stand back and throw the ball. It's still just the neighbors show, and outside of that, they really don't have anything.
All right. You are our resident Daniel Jones truther on the show. JC, you want to give us a little pushback and why maybe we should be upgrading this New York Giants team?
I mean, as far as my power rankings, I'm going to leave both the Giants and Dallas where I had them. I still think some people are a little too low on this Giants team. Didn't look great that Thursday night, but also too, the short rest, no team looked elite on Thursday night. Dallas, same thing, playing on short rest. We also downgraded them plenty after that Baltimore game, so I'm still hesitant on them. I don't think they're anywhere near as good as they were last year. I'd still be weary to bet them, but I still, in most underdog spots the Giants are going to have this year, I'm going to take a good look at those bets for sure.
All right. I don't really have much to say about that game. It feels like I'm trying to think of how I should put this. It just feels like these teams are what they are. I think all three of us didn't think Dallas was very good. JC, you and I will continue to argue all year about the Giants, but they did put forth a fairly good showing. They're not going to just roll over and play dead. Probably too bad for Giants fans and the team as a whole that they weren't able to get that win. That was a winnable game, and they did fall short. But we've had plenty of time to talk about this game. What we're really here to do is overreact to what we saw on Sunday. So let's start with two cat teams facing off. Love these cats. The Cincinnati Bengals got their first win of the season. Tyler, are you surprised that they were able to get the win as well as get the cover against the Fighting Andy Daltons?
No, wasn't surprised. I mean, it was about that time that they start waking up and starting to play. Wouldn't be surprised to see them reel off a couple wins in a row and get back right up towards the top of that division and make it a fight with Baltimore and the Steelers. I mean, their offense woke up against Washington. It's just their defense still missing those two interior guys, haven't been able to stop anything. They were missing those two interior guys, and Carolina was able to move the ball decently, but Carolina just wasn't able to score as many points as Cincinnati was in the end. So their offense prevailed. They won the game. I think they can put together more weeks like that.
JC, what do we think about Cincinnati going forward? They're a team that we always said was better than what they've seen so far. They've started slow to start the last, I don't know, every season under Zach Taylor. A lot of people think that Cincinnati is going to turn this around and, in spite of the slow start, make the playoffs and maybe even win that division. Where are you at on the Cincinnati Bengals? And then, of course, we can talk a little bit about the Panthers.
No, I've not been. After week 1, I said we need to stop believing in the Cincinnati team. I'm extremely low on them. I have no idea what their outlook is on the season. I'm not going to say I'd be surprised if they're playing in the playoffs, but honestly, if I had to lay a bet right now, I don't think they're going to be playing. It's just unimpressive. Everything we see from this team, they just can't put it together. They have the pieces. I don't know if it's egos. I don't know what the deal is. You could not take Cincinnati in this spot, right? They're not Panthers level bad and only having to lay 4.5. I mean, that was the easiest bet of the weekend, but still, I just don't. I don't know what's going on in Cincinnati, but I'm not betting on them again anytime soon. I think they're gonna. They'd be lucky to have a 500 record by the end of the year. Is my outlook on.
Really? I think I'm higher on Cincinnati than you are. What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah, I think that's a very bold call. I mean, the moment those 2 D tackles return and their interior line is better, the offense is already top 5. They're just going to reel off wins. I think they
top 5 in talent,
and they have a top 5 quarterback, and that's, I mean, in this new league, that's all that matters. You've got to have a good quarterback, and they got one of the best.
But other than 3 seasons ago, what have we seen from this team that makes us think they're a playoff contender? Or more than.
All right, so let's just talk about making the playoffs here, because you're right. At 1-3, they do not deserve for us to really talk about betting to win the AFC, betting to win the Super Bowl. That's fine. But, to start 0-3 and make the playoffs would be quite the feat. And I do think they're alive to do this. So let's talk about them as a playoff contender, JC, but you still don't believe in even making the playoffs. To make an argument for you, it's a tough division, man. It's a tough division.
Right.
I'd argue they're still the 3rd highest ranked AFC team when it comes to playoffs.
All right, so what are your playoff rankings? Chiefs, Ravens, Chiefs, Bills? They can't be the 3rd.
Chiefs, Bills, Bengals, and then the Chiefs, Bills, Bengals. Then
so you have the Bengals ahead of the Ravens?
Yes. Joe Burrow's a better quarterback than Lamar, and that's what it would come down to in the end.
But what has that gotten them to this point?
A Super Bowl chance and 2 AFC championship games. I mean, not everybody can be Mahomes and win every Super Bowl.
Right, but because last year he was injured. The year before that was at the
2 out of his 4 years he's been injured. The other 2 were a Super Bowl and an AFC championship game.
I'm trying to remember what happened in 23.
What are you talking about? Last year?
No, year before. Last year, right? He's injured.
The year before that, they lost to the Chiefs in the final game. AFC championship.
In the conference championship, right? That was where they were calling Burrowhead, right? And the
they were calling it Burrowhead.
Cincinnati mayor put his foot in his mouth.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's gonna have to be like that season, though, right? Because I will admit, 2022, they lost all those games. Everyone's calling Super Bowl hangover, and then then they started looking like the Rams, and then they did pull it together to make that playoff run. So, am I overreacting? Obviously, sure, but still, similar principle as it comes from week to week. There's no reason to bet on this team to suddenly turn it around until they turn it around. I'm going to keep fading the Bengals until they show that they're that caliber team again.
So you'll be on Baltimore minus 2.5 this week?
Absolutely.
Where's it at?
In Cincinnati. If those 2 D tackles are back, I'm on Cincinnati.
I like Cincinnati too. All right. Let's check. Yeah, that'll be fun. Some more bragging rights, JC, and you've done well so far this year. Let's check in with our chat guys. If you're watching on Twitter, but you want to be involved in the chat, head on over to youtube.com. We are on the FanSpeak channel. If you are on youtube.com and you have not already, please give us a thumbs up. Please give us the subscription. I was talking to Simon right before he jumped on because I did record a showdown show for him, and we'll get into that Monday night game a little later tonight. But I said I was really surprised at the good content we're putting out here on FanSpeak that we're not getting the views that I would expect for how quality this content is. I mean, we've been absolutely nailing a lot of our projections, a lot of our predictions, and we do have a nice variety of content here. So, guys, help us get noticed by this algorithm. We'll have a more lively chat. And, of course, the reason you want that is because we know the chat will hold me accountable when I like to overreact. So some comments from our chat. Tim D says, Bungles, using their old name, had a rough start, but they are a contender. So he agrees with Tyler and I. He says Burrow could single-handedly carry them. And he's looking for T. Higgins to come around. I've talked before, especially on my show during the wagering world. I wonder how much that these contract disputes are kind of hurting the morale with that Cincinnati Bengals team internally. So that's something we'll have to keep an eye on going forward. Our guy Steve, of course, and you can catch him on the Sibling Showdown, continuing to find those good Battle Royale winners with Meg. Says when Burrow is healthy, the Bengals offense is as good as it gets. Maybe need a little help at the running backs position, but Chase Brown's starting to come alive this week. And he says that the 2022 season, they were up, and if not for a great play by Mahomes and a late hit call, they might have been in the Super Bowl once again. Tim's quarterback ratings, he says Burrow, then Allen, then Mahomes. I don't know. I still got Mahomes number one regardless. But I agree with the top three that you have, and he says Lamar very close behind. I think we got to throw CJ Stroud in. We'll get to him, but maybe Jaden Daniels deserves to be on this list. Tyler, anything more about this Bengals Panthers? Oh, we didn't even talk about the Panthers. What do we do with them?
There's nothing to talk about the Panthers. I mean, they had a fun week. They beat the Raiders. Outside of that, what did he do? They're still one of the worst teams in the league.
I mean, is that more of just a referendum of how crappy the Raiders are than really saying the Panthers are good?
No, it's just what the Raiders do. They lose the games that no one thinks they can lose.
Yeah, well, at least they managed not to do that this week. JC, your thoughts on the Carolina Panthers? Should we be upgrading them? Obviously, they're trying to build some momentum after that win. And the offense did look at least serviceable. Defense couldn't get it done against the Bengals.
No, I definitely do. I don't think they're quite the sorry team that we thought they were after the last 2 weeks. And I'm not, hyping them up or anything. But, I mean, after those first two games, it seemed like all season we were just going to auto bet the other side. They might be competitive. I'm curious what the line is for that Chicago game. At the very least, we might be looking at some overs whenever the Panthers are playing. But I think, they'll have maybe like 4 wins this season. They'll get some nice divisional matchups. And actually, I'm going to look both those up right now. I'm curious what their win total is and what the line is for next week because they
I think the win total's 4.5. I think the lowest it got was 3.5 when they were 0-3. I think it went to 4.5 off the win off the Raiders. And because they were what were they? 5-point dogs? I don't know if this loss to Cincinnati is really going to affect them. Let's check in on the chat real quick.
4-point dog. They're a 4-point dog against Chicago. I don't know if that's enough to pull the trigger. That over.
They're probably going to be underdogs in almost every single game for the rest of the year.
Right, but still, I mean, like 4. Like, if they were catching 7 against Chicago, I might bite on that. I'm just saying they look like a professional football team again. So, I think it's
a poor professional football team, but at least they don't look like they should be relegated to the XFL like they did the first 2 weeks. Yeah, too bad for Bryce Young, a player that I was really rooting for. And, another game with Dalton making this offense look fairly good. Like, the defense lost them the game. I mean, I don't think this team was built to outscore 34-point wins, right? They were going to be low scoring and try and win with defense. And so that's just not the way they were built. Steve says Panthers are at least functional now with Dalton.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that everybody would agree with that. And he says they're going to get better when Thielen and Jonathan Brooks come back. I'll be interested to see. I don't think it's necessarily the weakness of the running back position that's been holding them back so far, Steve. But of course, it can't hurt. What do you think, JC?
I'm seeing 5.5, and based on their non-divisional games they got left, I'd probably still take the under because they got a real tough schedule outside of the division.
Yeah, I did think that the advantage they have going for them is every single team's going to overlook them.
For sure, but even still, that means maybe they cover, but you're probably still not going to like steal a win off of Washington, the Chiefs, the Buccaneers, the Eagles, Cowboys.
You might be able to. These teams might completely overlook them.
I don't think they're going to now. Like, I think, the Raiders did, the Bengals. Well, I don't know, the Bengals when you're 0-3, you can't really be overlooking anyone. I don't know.
Right.
I would still probably bet under 5.5, though. I'm not sure they have 5 wins of them remaining.
And Tyler's getting disgusted by all this Panthers talk. This is like when I tried to spend 10 minutes on our show last time breaking down the Raiders-Browns game, and you guys had to interrupt me. Nobody cares. Tyler, but you know what you should care about? The performance of my guy, Bo Nix, as he led his team to a victory over Hall of Famer Aaron Rodgers. Tyler, Bo Nix passed for 60 yards and 1 TD. Are you ready to crown him?
No. That was the ugliest football game.
You up here, Tyler. I put the ball on the tee. Knock it out of the park here.
Yeah, I mean, you lost my energy when we had to talk about Carolina for an extra 15 minutes. But now we're going to get back into the actual games. And we went with the worst one of the morning slate, the Denver Jets one, where Denver couldn't score and neither could the Jets. I mean, Bo Nix had -7 passing yards at halftime. Somehow he got to 60 in the end. They missed a couple field goals at the end, and the Jets couldn't pull it out. I mean, I didn't watch any of this game, so I have no real takes on this one.
JC, so first of all, I bet over on Denver for the regular season win totals. 2 wins already. I only need to get to 6. Very happy about that. But to me, this loss was more of an indictment of the New York Jets. And I said that I didn't believe in them before. And I said that I was not just going to put my money behind a quarterback who's close to my age coming off that huge injury. And we saw him get beat up in this game. It's only week 4. And a big concern is the leg that he was injured, that he was having problems with, is the opposite one that he had surgery on. And we know that when you come back from these surgeries, sometimes you can favor the opposite leg, put an extra strain on it. And I think that's what's happening. And this is why I couldn't buy in on the Jets as high as everybody was on them this offseason. I could not buy in on this team because I just felt like the quarterback was too old and that Tom Brady was a complete outlier here. And I think this loss falls on Aaron Rodgers. I know he had 225 yards, but you only put up 9 points. They got away from the rushing attack. I mean, Braylon Allen's their leading rusher. Top 12 picks in best ball have been terrible this year. What happened to Breece Hall, man? I picked McCaffrey in one of my home leagues, and I go, man, I should have taken Breece with the number 1 overall pick. Would that have even mattered? He's been a disappointment as well. What do we do with this New York Jets team? And are the Broncos legit? Are the Broncos good?
No, I mean, I don't. I've been low on the Jets all season. It's that franchise, as I've said many times over. You put this squad in a different uniform, and you might have a championship caliber team. But something about that green team from New Jersey, they're just going to do what they do. It's inexplicable. It's one of those things, you can't really question too much. You just kind of bet with it. They're terrible. I have no clue. I mean, no real opinion on Denver. We'll kind of see if Bo Nix plays next week, what he looks like. That'd be a fun storyline to root for. But what's crazy is despite all this, New York is catching 2.5 in Minnesota next week. So my only question is, how hard are we hammering Minnesota -2.5 next week?
Yeah, I wonder if people think that's a letdown spot there for the Vikings coming off that huge win in division over the Packers. But I'm with you because I've always liked Minnesota, and I've been down on the Jets. Tyler, what do you think of the Jets here going forward? Are you going to be contrarian there and fade the Fighting Darnolds, or do you think the Jets are in trouble?
I mean, I wouldn't say they're in trouble. They were missing 2 starting linemen in this game. It showed when they couldn't punch the touchdowns in on the 1-yard line. They tried 3 times. They still couldn't get in the end zone. So, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and just throw them under the bus because 2 of their starting 5 offensive
I mean,
linemen
half
weren't
the
there.
league is missing half of their starting line now, and we've talked about this before. These guys don't practice, and then they get to full speed, and none of them can stay healthy.
Yeah, but we know how top heavy the Jets team is. When their starters go out, the backups are drastically worse than the starters.
Fair enough.
So I don't take much from it. It was a 10-9 loss where nobody scored a touchdown.
And it was bad weather, but I mean, you would think the Jets were way more built for that win.
Yeah, bad
You would
weather.
think those conditions
missing
favored
linemen.
New York.
Yeah, I got it.
My final thoughts on the Jets is I don't think that coaching staff is very good. I don't know if I
don't
believe
either.
that Saleh is a head coach, and Hackett's probably a bottom 5 offensive coordinator. And if Aaron Rodgers was not their quarterback, I don't think he'd be employed as an offensive coordinator. I think he'd be a quarterback's coach or a quality control coach or just kind of hanging around a building, right? Getting some input here and there. I'm not saying the guy he obviously knows a lot about football, but I just don't think that he's able to compete with some of these top offensive coordinators in the league. JC, final thoughts on that game?
Don't really have any. We'll learn more about both these teams next week.
Well, yeah, we'll see. And I can't wait to see how the Broncos do when they take on my Las Vegas Raiders, and we'll move to their game. Steve's got some final thoughts on this game. He says, what I am giving some credit for is the Broncos defense.
Yeah,
Might not be as bad as we expected. Playing well versus Tampa, and now the New York Jets. Yeah, let's go ahead and give them credit. And we were quick to write Sean Payton's obituary, but maybe this guy is a better coach and that Super Bowl winning coach that we had all expected. Let's move on to an 0-4 team. And Tyler, as someone who drafted so much Trevor Lawrence, this is absolutely killing me watching the Jacksonville Jaguars come up short once again. Tank Bigsby taking over. He had the most rushing yards for that team. Brian Thomas Jr. looked great once again, but it was not enough for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, Doug Peterson might be the first coach fired. I don't even think it's going to matter. I don't know what's going on down there. I had high hopes for this franchise. They've absolutely disappointed me. Everyone expected the Texans to be good, and they're 3-1. They got to be feeling great about everything. Tyler, you were right to ignore the Broncos, but you had to have some eyes on the Texans, right?
Yeah, I mean, the Jags did not look good in this game. It was just bad. They should have fired Doug Peterson already. I don't know what they're waiting for. Like, they have the talent there.
I mean, I just don't. What's going to change? Who are they going to bring in? And what do they do? Elevate? What's the guy's name? Pass or press?
Anybody?
Or
You can't do
it doesn't
anymore.
matter. What they have is not working, so you have to fire them. Like, I don't care if you bring in someone off the street, you have to fire them. The question of where you get better at is just never the real question.
Can you believe that Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel are available to be hired?
Yeah.
I almost wonder if they just want to go to one of these.
They're not. I don't see them guys taking jobs.
I don't think they would because they need a whole training camp, even though training camp is nothing nowadays. But they need
a whole training camp. But let's be honest, both of them want front office control too. Maybe not full front office control, but they want to have some say in some things.
Yeah.
So that's why those two don't have jobs. And I think Doug Peterson needs to join them on the not having jobs list. Trevor Lawrence isn't as bad as he's looked. I'm going to stand by that. He has the weapons. Brian Thomas, Christian Kirk.
I mean, he missed some wide open throws.
He did.
And they threw him under the bus in the post game, which actually I don't really respect either.
Yeah, but again, they're still banged up. Houston is just a better team.
Everybody's banged up. You can't use that as an excuse. They should not be 0-4.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you can go into your breakdown.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You cut me off 6 times. Go ahead, Spray.
I'll stop. I'm having a lot of coffee.
No, I'm done. I'm done with this game.
JC, I'll try to do better this time. And
I don't
beg Tyler for my forgiveness.
I don't have much to say. I mean, 0-4. So again, I mean, why not fire the coach? Because again, you can't do any worse, right? Like, because the season cannot be any worse. So what do you got to lose? Hopefully you win a game. And I'm still unimpressed by Houston at this point because it's embarrassing that they. Yeah, I mean, it's embarrassing that the game was that close against Jacksonville and that they allowed Jacksonville to score 20. I don't know if it's a sophomore slump, but I'm very weary of the Texans in both directions, because I'm not going to say, oh, last year was a fluke, right? They're still a talented team. I'm not going to bet against them because that could, bite me in the ass. But I'm not seeing that same level of play that we saw last season. So they're kind of just on the sideline for me. Don't really know what to do with them. Going to need a couple more weeks before I decide if they're, a real contender or not.
I do believe in the Texans. They are 3-1. They're getting the wins they need to get, and that was a divisional matchup against a team that had everything to play for. So I'm going to give them a win. Tyler, the next game I want to talk about is the Bears versus the Rams, and I'm going to mute myself while you break this down.
There we go. But yeah, this one I really didn't watch much of, so I don't have much of a breakdown here. The Rams were able to get some points, and Caleb looked halfway decent. I mean, he had the touchdown to DJ Moore. I really don't have a breakdown on this game because I didn't watch much of it, so we can go to JC on this one. I had my ammo on the last game, and spread made me throw it all away.
I don't have much on this game. I wasn't able to get eyes on it. I was traveling. I was keeping up with it because I had the Rams money line. And it's kind of funny, like when you look at the box score, it looked like, the Rams shred the Bears, but ultimately, Bears won by 6. Again, 2 more teams, I really don't know what to make of them because the Rams, they're definitely not playing to their potential. And, this was kind of a bad week for Caleb, but they got the win. So do we care? I don't know. So 2 more teams that I'm going to need another week of data before I can confidently give an opinion on them and their season.
All right. I'll tell you what I make of these teams. Number one, the Bears are basically building for next year with DeAndre Swift reemerging. That was something I did not expect all week in the fantasy community. We expected Roschon Johnson to take over that starting job. And I don't know if that was a little subterfuge by Eberflus, Waldron, and that staff by just giving Roschon Johnson. They talked him up all week, and then it was the DeAndre Swift show, and he finally earned his money. That offensive line is terrible, but they were able to get it done against the Rams. How much does that really mean, though? Tyler, when we talk about the reason that we lost our pick that week, I think that we underestimated the injuries. I felt like the Rams – we were like, okay, well, they have the offensive weapons here. They're just too depleted on the defensive end. They weren't able to win at the line of scrimmage against one of the weakest offensive lines in the league. And this team simply might be looking ahead to next season as well. With all these injuries, you can't even blame their general manager. We talk about teams being banged up, but they might be the worst. Final thoughts, Tyler, on the Rams and Bears before we move on?
Yeah. The Rams should honestly just pack it in and try and draft one of these quarterbacks at the top of the draft board. I know Stafford's probably got 1 to 2 more years left, but you sit him on the bench for a year or 2. Wouldn't be bad for one of these guys coming in.
For sure.
I agree, and it was tough for me not to interrupt there, but I'm working on it. But I think Stafford's got a couple years left. But I think we've seen with some of these rookies. Jaden Daniels has been excellent. And Caleb Williams had a great opportunity, but I think that Drake May and Michael Penix are probably being served well by not being thrown out there right away. So maybe as these rookie quarterbacks struggle, we'll see a return to that type of development, and I wouldn't mind. However, Tyler, there are some questions about this year's quarterback class, and we can talk about that on a different show. All of a sudden, I'm Team Shedeur Sanders after being out on him 2 weeks ago. 5-star talked me into that one. And this might, how the wide receivers were this year, Tyler? It could be this year for the edge rushers, where we're just going to get all stacked in the draft. Yeah, so maybe the Rams just try to bolster up that defense and wait another year before they add a quarterback. And I wonder if Steve would agree with me. I think next year would be the 2025 class. I think the 2026 class is expected to be better. Final thoughts on the Rams?
Is that the one when everyone's just going to hunt the Manning kid?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I got nothing spread. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. I think the most important game of the morning was the Vikings versus the Packers. Tyler, I was surprised that Jordan Love went out there. I handicapped this all week with the idea that it would be Malik Willis out there. I didn't think there was any reason to risk him. They had already kind of won a free roll, so to speak, with winning the 2 games that Willis has started. Why not keep it rolling and wait for him to be 100%, especially against one of the most fearsome blitzes in the league? So they did put Love out there. Boy, he looked good, though. 389 yards, 4 TDs, but it wasn't enough. As MVP candidate Sam Darnold gets the win. Tyler, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Vikings did look good. Their defense is just astounding. For a unit that was at the beginning of the season, you watched all their guys hit the injury report before we even played a football game. And everyone and their mother said, pencil in who's going to be the worst defense in the league. A lot of those people penciled in the Vikings due to injuries. Brian Flores took all those injuries, balled them up, threw them in the trash, and he's making do with the guys he's got. And his scheme is just tearing these guys apart. I think Jordan Love's the first guy that has looked that scheme in the face all year and been actually able to somewhat keep up with the Vikings. I mean, Brock Purdy stifled him. He stifled the other guys too he's played this year. This Green Bay team is really good. His first game back, 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. Like, I know we talked about it, betting him for the Super Bowl at 27-1. They're still priced at that after taking that loss. I'd bet him again after seeing that he can do that. I knew he could do that, but it was one of those things after the injury, how is he going to be back on the field? In his first game back, he looks right back to where he was. And I just do not trust Minnesota's offense to keep chugging along. If Sam Darnold ends up playing like this the whole year, I'll eat my words. I think at some point this dies off. Somebody's going to get pressure to him. He's going to get rattled. And I think at that point, that's where he starts to fall off. And until that point, he's just going to keep throwing touchdowns to Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson.
Tyler, I had to mute myself because I think the offense is good. They have excellent weapons. Justin Jefferson's arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL. Addison and Naylor are fantastic. TJ Hawkinson's coming back, and that Aaron Jones pickup was huge. JC, what do you think about the Minnesota Vikings? Tyler still doesn't want to give them credit. Their credit score must be terrible in Tyler's bank.
I don't think that's really what Tyler is saying, and I'm not sure I can disagree with Tyler. I mean, how often have we ever seen a quarterback like this that's bounced around, given plenty of opportunities, shown he's
Rich Gannon?
Exactly. Thank you for proving my point. Proven he's, not a great quarterback, and then suddenly has an MVP kind of run. So I like what.
How did that prove your point?
What was the best he ever did?
Rich Gannon was an NFL MVP.
He won MVP?
Yes. The year they went to the Super Bowl and lost.
All right, fine. There's one. Fair enough. I didn't think I know he went to the Super Bowl.
The argument is I went back 22 years to find that.
Sure. So I mean, but it can happen. But you proved. Fine, so be it. But I'm going to have to agree with Tyler. While I'm going to continue to bet on the Vikings, yeah, I'm not going to be surprised if the wheels fall off at some point. But for now, I mean, they're chugging along. They look great. The thing that kind of concerns me, though, like if you'd have just told me Love was going to play, Minnesota's going to win 31-29, like, yeah, that sounds about right. But the fact that Green Bay scored 22 in the fourth, it's kind of like that Baltimore Cowboys game. I don't really know what to make of Green Bay given that. Does it show fight? Does it show Minnesota kind of mailed it in? I don't know. I don't know if basically what I'm saying is I don't know if we need to downgrade Green Bay. Granted, that stat line from Love was incredible. So that's just something to kind of keep an eye on and something I'll be thinking about when I'm looking at the line for Green Bay over the next week or two. And then kind of drive home Tyler's point, though, before I toss it to you, Spread. I mean, what do you think is more likely, that Sam Darnold is in the MVP conversation when the year ends, or he's completely fallen off? What do you think is more likely?
In the MVP conversation. I don't think he's going to fall off. I don't think he's going to fall off.
What kind of odds would you give?
I really don't think he's a true MVP candidate, though.
For sure.
I think he's going to. I don't think he's going to regress that much. I think the coaching is so good there, and I think it shows how important coaching is. And I think that Kevin, we want to talk about Shanahan and McVay, and I think we're leaving O'Connell out.
Jordan Love at 45-1 has a better chance than Sam Darnold at 11-1 to win the MVP.
Fair enough, but that Darnold could still have a great season, and that still be true.
Darnold could have the best season of his career, and all the credit's going to go to the receivers.
Yeah, so
he's getting the Brock Purdy treatment.
It's kind of Purdy and CMC last year. But seriously, I mean, like, Spread though, what kind of odds would you give me on him not being in the conversation?
How about this? Because I don't think he really has a chance for MVP just because
But
of
I
the name value.
understand that. But I mean, but
His
just
quarterback rating stays the same. Is that fair enough? What
Sure,
are the
yeah,
odds
yeah,
his
for
quarterback rating stays the same as it is right now?
Right.
I'd say it's probably 50-50, right? Because there is tape going out there. They have been fairly healthy. I mean, not fairly healthy, right? But I mean, if Jefferson goes down, that helps him a lot. You know, we talked about offensive line injuries. Minnesota has not suffered that. So I'd say 50-50.
And of the other guys that are playing at this level, right? Like, we're not even talking about them falling off.
Fair enough. And I think that's fair because he's not shown continued success throughout his career. So this is an outlier. With Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Lamar, I mean, they've done it for years in a row. There's no reason for us to expect them to fall off. For Darnold, we do have an excellent, you know, he doesn't have a track record. So I don't think that's fair. And to do it on a
team that has Brian Flores as a coach.
What do you mean? Brian Flores is probably the best defensive coordinator in the NFL right now.
Yeah, but do you think they're just like making sure they're not even at the building at the same time?
Yeah. I don't think O'Connell talks to a defensive player. I think they are completely split in that building. I think O'Connell's with his guys the whole day, and he just says, Brian, let me know what's going on there. You need me to do anything? Okay.
The ghost of Sam's past is coming to Minnesota this week.
Say what?
The ghost of Sam's past is coming to Minnesota this week.
Yeah, New York. Yeah, I don't think they're. I think he's going to exercise that demon.
The ghost might show up on the field.
That was the Patriots that did that to him, not the Jets. He was on the Jets.
He was in a Jets uniform.
Yeah, and that whole thing was bullshit because I'm sure people have said that shit all the time. Excuse my language, and they just happened to catch him. You don't think other quarterbacks have said they've flustered on the sideline before?
Dude, it's Vikings by 1 million this week. That's got to be the easiest bet.
That line scares the hell out of me.
I know. The reason it scares me is it seems too easy, right, JC?
This is too easy. Rodgers lights up that defense somehow.
Yeah. They should have a real fiery week of practice coming off that loss because they have to be disappointed in the showing they put forth. And Vikings are hearing everybody just glaze them all week. So I'm with you, JC. There's no way I'm taking the Jets, but I don't know. That seemed like an NFL special right there.
I understand what you're saying.
Is this version of the Vikings better than the 13-4 version that lost the wild card game?
Vikings?
No, the one with Kirk Cousins a few years ago that lost in the first round.
Yeah, no, we all knew they were frauds. We knew they were frauds. Because remember, they won all those games by like a score.
Yeah.
No, I think like this team, as it currently exists, is good. Like is a real contender. Like if playoffs started tomorrow, we would be talking about Vikings in the Super Bowl.
All right. Well, I have not interrupted Tyler for the last two breakdowns. For that, I think we deserve a thumbs up. Guys, hit that thumbs up. This is brought to you by fanspeak.com. The New Orleans Saints, Tyler, oh my God, they should have won that game. Go ahead. Victory lap.
Got a victory lap.
Although they covered.
They didn't cover the number we gave out on the sheet at 1.5.
Yeah,
so
but they covered the closing number.
Falcons for hitting the early number. I mean, that was an ugly game. I'll say one thing about the Saints offense. It has nothing to do with Derek Carr. And it seems like Gadget Man Taysom Hill, when he is in the game, the Saints are an unstoppable force on offense. When he is out of the game, they look like shit. He wasn't playing last week, and they couldn't score on a Philly defense that gave up about 20 points in 30 seconds against Tampa Bay this week. And now he shows up, and they're able to put up points against Atlanta. And Atlanta fought into the end and let Young Hoku kick that game winner at the end. So glad we cashed. When Taysom Hill's there, the Saints are going to be a problem. When he's not there, I'm not worried about him.
The other player I really think they're missing is the center, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but we know how important centers are to setting the coverage. Boy, I was so disappointed. JC, for most of that game, I really thought I was going to be able to come on here pound the chest for the New Orleans Saints and get ready for it to go well. Unfortunately, that was not the case. What did you see when the Falcons got the last-second victory? That I don't want to say save their season, but it's Overreaction Monday. Let's say it. Let's save their season, man. They're 2-2 now. They face the Buccaneers on Thursday with an opportunity to tie for first place in that division. If they wanted to win in that game 1-3, losing 3 home games already, I mean, that could have been a death knell for this team. A huge win for the Atlanta Falcons. Talk to me about how you're adjusting the ratings for both teams.
I'm not at all. I mean, these teams are both exactly kind of where I thought they were. I didn't bet on this game because I thought they were evenly matched teams. I think they're just like slightly below average. I think they're always liable to cause an upset. I don't think they're really threats within the conference at all. I still don't think really highly of these teams, and there's no result that could have happened that would have made me think better of them. It's kind of what happens to me on teams like that meeting. So even if the Saints had crushed them, I really wouldn't have given you your flowers anyways. So that being said, I'm ready for the next game.
An NFC South team that you do have to like, JC, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I'll let you start with this one. They're now 3-1. They're going to play the Falcons on Thursday. Are you impressed with the Buccaneers, and do you think they'll win the NFC South?
Simply because there's no competition. I mean, they're another team that's kind of inconsistent. I think it's early enough in the season. I think they figured out like what we've seen from them is solid. But again, they beat up Philly. We think very low of Philly. I don't think they're a very good team. I think I don't know what's going on there, but not really an impressive win. But, given that division, given their quarterback, I do think they are the best in the NFC South.
Tyler, if you've been in a coma for 5 years and you just woke up and you saw these 2 quarterbacks play, you would think that Baker Mayfield's better than Jalen Hurts. What were your takeaways when the Buccaneers beat the Eagles?
That might be a true statement, spread. He
That's
might be better than
yesterday.
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, Hurts.
I don't think there's a quarterback better than Baker.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a quarterback better than Baker when he is fully locked in and you've watched him hit like 4 or 5 passes in a row. Like, he looks like prime Drew Brees out there when he starts slinging the thing and it's he's in rhythm. Like, he looks good. When he has weapons, he's always looked good. Yeah, and outside of that 1 year in Cleveland where he looked bad and he was playing with a shoulder injury, he would probably have Cleveland way higher in the rankings than they are right now. So, I mean, Tampa Bay's a threat. And with the way the NFC is panned out, if their defense can put it together, they could be a threat to win the NFC.
Yeah, NFC is definitely weaker right now. Of course, the 49ers did look great yesterday, so I think they still have to be on the top of everybody's board. But, boy, they've showed, that the consistent runs have definitely taken a toll on that team. So what do we do with the Eagles now, Tyler, in our rankings? They're 2-2, and some of their losses have looked really bad.
Their defense looks absolutely atrocious.
And the coaching's bad.
Yeah. They're middle of the pack.
Yeah, I'm not high on this team at all. Am I overreacting, JC, or can we fairly downgrade the Eagles?
I'm so sorry. I'm watching this Braves game. I did not hear the last 90 seconds.
Talk to me about how we adjust the Philadelphia Eagles rankings going forward after another disappointing loss.
They're trash. No need.
Well, we have them pretty high.
Do you have a mouse in your pocket, spread? Who's we?
I have a cat sitting right next to me. I wish she was on screen, but she's not.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna say they're the worst team in that division, but there's a conversation that could be had.
At the current state with their injuries, they are the worst team.
They're not worse than New York.
With the current injuries, yes, they are.
Wow.
With the current injuries, their wide receiver 1 is Jahan Dotson, who hasn't caught a touchdown since Penn State.
That's a wild stat. I love that stat.
All right. Jalen Hurts or Sam Darnold, JC, who would you rather have?
That's how much work he gets on the NFL field.
What my options, Brad? I didn't hear you.
All right. Who would you rather have as your quarterback next week? Jalen Hurts or Sam Darnold?
Oh, Jalen Hurts.
What about you, Tyler?
Yeah, it probably hurts. I have to stick to the Sam Darnold hate train.
All right. Only 158 yards
I mean,
and
if
one
we were
TD
talking
last
about
week.
like for next week's game, I might take Sam Darnold. But if we're
I
talking
mean,
about like this year and
you
next,
cannot sit here and talk about Jalen Hurts for this performance when he was throwing to us three.
no, I completely agree. But I'm just saying, like I do think right now Sam Darnold is playing like a better quarterback. But again, the problem with the Eagles is not Jalen Hurts.
Okay. All right. I wish I could push back, but yeah, that'd be a little too over the top here. But it was nice to see Baker Mayfield get some flowers again yesterday. Tyler, what happened to my favorite team? That's your favorite team, the Fighting Tomlins. How did we lose to the Colts, bro? You know where we got screwed on that game was falling down 14-0 early. This team's not built to come from behind. The fact that they even made it close, I think, was a credit to Justin Fields and maybe some signs that the Steelers offense could be pretty good. However, once again, those fumbling problems came to light. He did have a key fumble there in the second half. And I don't like our chances as the Steelers. Truther, when Fields is the leading rusher, we're going to need more from Najee Harris and company to get this win. I know you watched this game, Tyler, so tell me what you saw.
Yeah, I mean, counts as a loss on the record, but I look at that game as a win, to be completely honest with you. We did what I wanted us to do finally. The first 3 weeks, we're in a winning script. We could just let Fields just kind of hang out. We protected him. You didn't really have to do anything. And I said it for 3 weeks. I said, I need to see what this team looks like in a trailing script to see if this offense can even survive or even fight. Fields threw for 300 yards. Yeah, he had a fumble, but George Pickens' fumble when he was trying to dance along the sideline was way more important because that would have put them on the 2-yard line, probably letting Najee punch in a touchdown, which in the end would have won them the game because they lost the game by 3. So I think they looked really good in the end. They kind of laid an egg in the first half, which was bound to happen. This was a spot everyone wanted to pencil them in for a win. And the Colts just match up with them well. Steichen carved them up with Gardner Minshew last year. He was able to get the ground game going with AR before AR got hurt, and then Flacco was able to dice us up. So I think Steichen has our number, but Fields and those guys looked good on offense. Pickens crushed his props, got all the way up over 100. And I think that stack in DFS paid well. Fields, Freiermuth, and Pickens. So it was good to see. I know we took a loss, but I love the way they played.
JST, I'm going to read Steve's comment and have you respond to that and tell me your thoughts on the game. But I agree with Steve here, so I'd like to hear what you think. Steve says, I think the Richardson injury actually worked against Pittsburgh. Not only did they game plan against Richardson, but his turnovers are something you can count on. And you know that, Tyler, I kept bragging. I kept driving on DraftKings round 20, Joe Flacco, because I expected Richardson to get hurt. And I actually believe that they're a better team right now. I understand for the future of the franchise, you need to develop Richardson. But if you just need to win one game, I think that Flacco is an upgrade. JC, your thoughts?
No, I mean, that's exactly what I was going to say. Is Flacco coming into this game is what ruined it. I was heavily leveraged on this game. I had Pittsburgh. I had the under, but I handicapped this game thinking Richardson was going to be under center. I might have looked at it differently if I'd known Flacco was going to play. He had a hell of a game. Jonathan Taylor did too. I mean, that wasn't unexpected. Kind of expected any scoring to come from him. But Tyler's right. I mean, you can't be happy with the win, but how they looked, this team is legit. Are we having another Flacco revival? I don't know, or if it was a one and done, but nothing really to be too discouraged about in Pittsburgh. And, they're somehow a top player in the AFC right now.
All right. Any final thoughts on this game, Tyler? I'll take it. That's a no. All right. Did he freeze? You're muted.
He's muted.
All right. Let's move to the afternoon slate. Most boring game of the afternoon, I felt, was the 49ers who defeated the Patriots 30-13. George Kittle's back in the lineup, and Jordan Mason looked great once again. I don't know. After that cool win over the Patriots and keeping it close against the Seahawks, The Patriots have returned to form as being the team with the lowest regular season win total preseason. I don't even know how much we even upgrade the 49ers. They did what they had to do. At least they made it look easy and got out without more injuries. What do you think, Tyler?
Can you hear me now? My computer was freezing up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Patriots stink. They had a couple close games earlier in the year. They just need to keep Brissett alive so they don't have to put Drake May out there and give him all the bad habits because that offensive line is absolutely atrocious. You got to keep him on the bench for the entire year, and then next year build the line, then let him play. Outside, I mean, San Fran did their job. They came in, won the game by double digits, covered the spread. Pretty much it for them. I see Kittle got hurt again, but that's going to be the story of their season. They're just dealing with injuries. They're dealing with all of the injuries.
All right. JC, what do we do with this game? To me, it's literally nothing. I don't upgrade San Francisco. We're already pretty low on the Patriots. I mean, do we take anything away?
No, I mean, this is kind of, we were staying away from those big spreads, but this was kind of expected. Glad to see San Francisco do what they should have done when they've kind of been waffling to this point in this season, but nothing really crazy. No reason to think too much about it.
My final thought for this game is the Patriots organization, let's give them credit for not throwing Drake May out there behind that line. I mean, it is bad. It is bad. And so rather than let that kid get beat up and ruin his confidence like they did to Bryce Young, I think they're doing the right thing. Let Brissett take that beating. Hopefully they can get some tackles in the offseason and through the draft because I don't know. You'd have to be like a top 5 quarterback to win with that line. Tyler, the story of the afternoon, though. Not the fact that the Washington Commanders won as 3.5-point dogs, but they won 42-14. Jaden Daniels continues to look like the best quarterback in this draft, and I know it's only been 4 games, and I know that Caleb's going to continue to improve, but this man can move. He's got accuracy underneath, and he throws a beautiful deep ball. Everything you want in a quarterback. The Washington Commanders have to be excited, even if they regress a little this season and they're not able to make a run. They've found their guy. Jaden Daniels is a legit quarterback in the NFL, outplaying Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's a 6-year veteran, and I would rather have Daniels here in his 4th start. What did you think, Tyler? JC, we'll go to you.
First off, crazy that
Can you hear me? My computer's freezing up.
Yeah, you're freezing on us. We'll let JC break it down, and then I'll throw it back to you. How's that? You can reset if you want to, and I'll bring you back in.
It's crazy that Murray has been in the league for 6 years. That's absolutely insane. Washington's hot. I'm looking smarter and smarter every day when I pick them to win the division at the start of the year. I knew he'd be good. I did not think he'd be this good. I mean, the kid is unreal. I mean, the numbers he's posting are just stupid. But more so, how much do we have to downgrade Arizona after 2 weeks in a row of scoring less than 20? I mean, based on what we've seen from Washington's offense, everyone kind of thought this would be a shootout. If you told me Arizona was only going to score 14, I certainly would not have taken the over. But I mean, man, Washington is just a force. They are fun to watch, and their defense might finally gotten in order now because that's obviously been their weak spot to this point in the season. But they looked good last week, and this is a team that's going to cause some problems in the NFC, and in a pretty weak NFC too. Like it's really not crazy to now put them in the Super Bowl conversation.
Yeah, it is.
Why?
The defense still is terrible. And this is where I'm going to throw it to Tyler. Kyler only put 14 against this defense. What's going on in Arizona?
Yeah, I mean, it was ugly for Arizona. It was the Cliff Kingsbury revenge game. But I'm not even worried about Arizona. I'm not even talking about them. We're talking about Washington. Arizona lost. Whoop-de-doo. Don't care. Washington is going to win the NFC East. Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in that division, and this is what a quarterback looks like when he is 25, 26 years old, and he gets drafted early in the draft. He's either going to hit the ground running like this and look like a pro right off the bat, or he's just not good. And this kid is legit. Everyone thought he was not going to be able to throw the ball. Well, he's airing it out now. He's running the ball well, and he's not just tucking and running when he feels pressure. He's running when he should. He knows what he's doing back there. This team is very good. The defense, I know it's bad, but who cares when you're scoring 40 points a game? Jaden Daniels is going to lead this team to the playoffs, and he's going to win Rookie of the Year, and they're going to win this division.
All right, I love to see it because I've been high on Jaden Daniels all year, and hey, Meg's gonna have to she's gonna have to listen to me be insufferable because I told her this rookie quarterback was the way to go. They're building properly there, and we see how much having the right guy under center matters. My final thoughts about Jaden Daniels is his accuracy in the intermediate area is what's really stood out to me. We knew he was going to be able to run the ball. We knew he had a beautiful deep ball from throwing to Neighbors and Thomas at LSU. But that accuracy underneath is really what I think is setting him apart from Caleb Williams and some of the other young quarterbacks. But, Tyler, let me just press you a little bit because we do have to adjust our rankings for Arizona because we're going to be betting them for the rest of their season. And I was pretty high on them, but I am really disappointed by this performance. And I know we don't overreact to one game, but they should have been able to do way more on offense.
Yeah, definitely should have been able to do way more. But, I mean, sometimes you just have bad games, and they've looked good the other 3 weeks on offense, so I'm not going to sit here and downgrade them a ton. So,
okay. Plus 7.5 in San Francisco.
I kind of like that for them to bounce back.
Yeah.
All right, and we'll be talking about that more tomorrow here on the FanSpeak Network. Subscribe to the channel, and you'll hear us go live and start breaking down and looking ahead to week 2. We got a couple more games on the docket, Tyler, and then we'll break down tonight's 2 games. Tyler, I'm ready to talk for an hour on this, but I'm worried that you'll just end the show. So I'll be quick. The Raiders got to win over the Browns. Let's be honest. This says more about the Browns being pitiful than the Raiders. We can't upgrade them. They still absolutely suck. I'm already in the camp that O'Connell should be starting, but it doesn't even matter. I almost don't want to win because I want a higher draft pick. This team is going nowhere, and the Browns suck. I'm sure you're going to keep this brief.
I have nothing on this game. I don't think this game's seen my TV screen once on Sunday.
All right, Tyler, no love for the coolest uniforms in football. You got to give us that, JC. Our uniforms are pretty badass.
I think they're extremely overrated. Like everyone says they're the best,
Really?
And like black and silver is cool, but I don't get why everyone puts.
It's so plain. How are they like the most badass uniforms in the league?
Exactly.
If anything, it looks like you went to the generic store and said, "Give me that one."
Every time, dude. Every time I'm out in public and I see someone wearing a Raiders jersey, I think it's like, their mom made it for them or something.
You guys
are
have
going
like
to piss off a contingent of the loyal Spread Stare fans that are Royal fans, Raiders fans with me. This is unbelievable. This might be the best uniform in sports. You guys got to learn to really
and I know
appreciate
like people
some
say
simplicity.
I know that's not just you. Like people say that, and I just don't get why.
The people that think the Raiders have the best jerseys are the same people that think Penn State's jerseys are cool.
Fair enough.
They're just generic. It's literally the plainest jerseys in the entire sports.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm glad I'm not your guys' age. All right, JC, talk to me about the game though. And do we upgrade the Raiders? I mean, let's keep down. How bad are this Browns team? This team had the number 1 defense in the NFL last year.
I'm just going to take yet another victory lap on how terrible the Browns are and how I've been saying that. And they're horrible. Deshaun Watson is horrible. I won money on this game, not because I had faith in the Raiders, but because for some reason, the lines have still not caught up to recognize how horrible Cleveland is. And that's really all there is to say about this game.
No Devontae Adams, no Max Crosby, and the Browns still lose. Their fans are in hell right now. A fan base not in hell is the Kansas City Chiefs as they squeak out another close win. Now they're 4-0. Is this the most impressive 4-game winning streak? I mean, every game is close. Every game you can see something going the other way. They play a Chargers team that we talk about being banged up. They're missing almost everybody. Herbert was hobbled, and yet they still only win by 7. Tyler, start with you. Chiefs, Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the Chiefs were going to lose the game once Rashee Rice went out. They have no weapons. Like, they have an old man Kelsey. That is it. Xavier Worthy's going to get 4 to 5 targets a game. If he doesn't catch that deep ball touchdown, he's not doing anything. So once Rice tore his ACL, that team did not look like they were ready to win a game. So I think it's more on the Chargers not being able to put together anything and he just get points on the board to win the game in the end. And Mahomes did what he does. It was 10-10. It was fourth quarter. He said, okay, I'm going to take this ball and I'm going to drive it down the field and we're going to get points. And they did it. So I think they make a trade for a wide receiver within the next few weeks with Rice probably done for the year. And Hollywood Brown's not coming back, so they have to make a move. Wouldn't be surprised if they call your Raiders spread and they try and get Devontae Adams.
But the Raiders won't trade in division. You have to be like Jahan Dotson to get traded within division. Like no one gets traded in division. I'll give you
guys,
10 to 1.
You guys
right
aren't
now.
Competing for anything that the Chiefs.
If Devontae gets traded, he's going to New York.
One of those things where it's like, yeah, Devontae's only going to go to New York, and then the Chiefs called, and now he's running around at Arrowhead. Everyone always wants to go to one place until the other place calls.
I just don't see them doing it in division. What do you think, JC?
I don't know. I mean, it's rare that it happens, but I'd probably not. And I also don't know like what kind of picks they'd have to get up to get it. Because in order for the Raiders,
at this point, it's probably only worth a second rounder with this.
Right, but in order for them to send him to a division rival, I think they're going to have to pay more than he's worth. So yeah,
I guess you're right, Tyler. If they offered a first rounder, it'd be hard to say no because they're not going to get a first rounder from any other team. I don't think the Jets are giving up a first rounder, especially
all
at
the
2
Chiefs
and
are
2.
doing is giving you pick 32.
Yeah, maybe the Raiders don't take it because of that reason.
As for the game, though, I really don't think there's that much to say about it. It's always a weird game when these two match up. Kansas City does what they do, which is win ugly games, I should say. That was not winning ugly. They just won an ugly game. They got the job done. Man, they got a tough schedule, though. So, I mean, after the Saints, they got to go play San Francisco. And then, it looks like their schedule gets easier. But then they're in Vegas, Tampa Bay, Denver. But then they got Buffalo, Carolina. It's a really hard schedule. So, definitely important that they got this 4-0 start. Getting that win against New Orleans next week will be huge if they can pull that off because they kind of got a tough road ahead of them. But again, they're the Chiefs. They're going to win games, but they're probably not going to cover.
The Buffalo Bills took their first loss of the season to the Baltimore Ravens. I, for one, was surprised. Not that we necessarily lost that play, Tyler, but in the manner in which we lost. The Baltimore Ravens defense finally looked to be that vaunted unit that we've known for so many years. Was this just a Bills letdown spot, or do we need to take the Ravens more seriously? What are we doing?
Take the Ravens a little bit more seriously and downgrade the Bills' rush defense because Derrick Henry literally gouged them play after play after play. And then you watch Justice Hill step on the field and gouge them play after play after play. They cannot stop the run. It was just looking back at their games the last few weeks that they were able to win. They were ahead in all those games except for the Arizona game where Josh Allen actually had to pull them away and win that game. They beat up on Jacksonville early. They were able to just lean on the run game, get it out from there, and Josh Allen played lights out. Miami game, Tua dies. There's nothing for them to do at that point. There was no chance for Miami to win that game. So now they have to play a team that can run the ball and throw the ball, and Derrick Henry housed the first play from scrimmage for 80-some yards. And from there, they didn't stand a chance. They tried, but Baltimore looked really good. I'm not going to downgrade Buffalo drastically. They're still one of the better teams in the AFC, but Baltimore's woken up. They're right back in that top group too.
JC, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, because it's a little unfair to say we got to downgrade Buffalo's run defense when you're facing one of the most electric running offenses maybe we've ever seen. I mean, that combo is just completely unfair. So good to see Baltimore getting back to what we expect from them after how they started the season. Tough game. Buffalo got behind. They couldn't catch up. I really don't think there's any reason to overreact, especially, given primetime Sunday night game, those sometimes go a little bit funky. So can give Baltimore a nice upgrade here, but I don't think we need to overreact on the Buffalo side.
All right, no overreaction for you there. Not taking the show. All right, guys, let's move on to tonight. We won't be spending as much time overreacting typically. I just thought that there was a lot of interesting things to talk about here and interrupt Tyler while we were speaking. So, Tyler, I can't wait to interrupt you while we're breaking down this game. The Tennessee Titans have yet to find a win. They're taking on JC's favorite team. The Miami Dolphins are laying 2.5 with the quarterback that they just hired this week. This is a tough offense. This is a tough offense to learn. He previously played under Greg Roman. There's not a lot of similarities here. However, coming off the street might be better than Will Levis, who has managed to find creative and innovative ways to give away games every single week. How are you approaching this game as the Miami Dolphins are laying 2.5 on a low total of 37?
Yeah, love this number earlier in the week when Miami was plus 1.5 when we knew Huntley was going to play. Then the number jumped and switched. I still think Miami wins this game. I don't care that there's no similarities to the offense that Huntley's played. Well, how hard is it to tell Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle to run slants or drag routes and throw it as far as you can to those guys? So they're going to do that. They're going to have dump offs to A-Chain. They're going to run Jonnu Smith in the little safety blanket route. Like, they're going to dumb things down for Huntley. And he also has the legs, so he's mobile. He can run the ball. That opens up the offense even more. Their defense isn't the best. I could see Pollard running through them. His 50 yards on his prop isn't bad at all. But Levis is the problem here. He's going to make mistakes. Until he shows me he can't make mistakes, I'm just going to bet against him. I trust Huntley to go out there. He's a vet. He's going to not make big mistakes. He's going to use his legs to extend drives. He's going to get the ball to the playmakers and let them do their thing. So I'm on Miami here. Tyreek Hill's receiving prop, when I looked at it this morning, I thought I was still sleeping and something was wrong. 50.5 yards for Tyreek Hill. That is way too low. I don't care that there's been a quarterback change. I don't care that his numbers have been bad with Skylar Thompson the last 2 weeks. Huntley could hit him for a screen pass, and he could run that down the length of the field and catch that prop in one play. He's going to get 6 or 7 targets in this game. If you look back at Huntley's in Baltimore, he targeted guys like Aguilar and Demarcus Robinson on top of the tight ends like Mark Andrews and these guys. So he's going to let the ball fly to these guys. They are their main weapon. So Tyreek Hill at 50, Jalen Waddle at 37.5. Love both those yards. I'll alt Tyreek Hill up to 100 because I think there's a possibility he just goes off against his Tennessee secondary, who could be missing with Jarius Sneed and the starting safety. Simmons is already out, so they're not going to get pressure on Huntley. So I think Huntley could have a big game. I think Hill crushes his props, and I think Miami gets out of there with a win.
All right. Tyler likes Miami to cover the game. He likes the Tyreek Hill over on his prop, but he thinks if you want to run it back, Pollard's got a great chance. JC, your favorite team, right? We both know heartbreak from rooting for our franchises. Are they going to break your heart tonight, or do you think there'll be a glimmer of hope like we found against the Cleveland Browns?
Yeah, I think it's just going to be a terrible day at my house because the Braves just blew that game. And if they lose the second game of this doubleheader, they're going to miss the playoffs. And then I'm going to have to deal with the Titans beating the Dolphins. I think it's either going to be a blowout. I think Miami either wins by 10 or it's a close, ugly game that Tennessee pulls out. Because overall, this team, the offense just hasn't looked good this year. Even before Tua went out, didn't look great. Looked horrible last week with Skylar. I'm cautiously optimistic about Huntley. It'll be really interesting to see what he can do with his legs. That's definitely an aspect that I'm curious to watch tonight because that is something that could really open things up, but that's also not really McDaniel style. So it'll just be interesting to see if that plays any effect on the game whatsoever. As for Tyreek Hill, yeah, he's been on the injury report. All it says is rest, so pretty vague. However, I mean, that dude's a freak, and we've kind of seen this before where it's like, ooh, is he injured? I'm not really sure. He's questionable, but man, once it's game time, he's full throttle. So as long as he's out there on the field, those props are a great play. I could just see this being a really ugly game that no one wants to watch, and if it is that, I'm taking Tennessee. I'm just down on Miami right now, and nothing that we've seen makes me think they're going to be competitive.
I was going to hammer the Tennessee side, JC, and be with you, but I think Tyler made great points there. I mean, the players that he's listed off are, I don't want to say irreplaceable, but pretty damn close, right? You're not going to. Snead is a tough guy, right? It's not just like, oh, they're missing their starting corner. No, they're missing a top 5 guy in the league. Simmons, another one. He's probably in the top 5 of his position. And I've loved this Titans defense so far, and they have to be disappointed. And we've talked about when they're going to give up on Will Levis because they're playing so well. They have all the tools there except for simply the quarterback play. But because of the injuries on the defensive side of the ball, I'm not ready to get involved. And it actually even took me away from what one of our favorite bets is, JC, the under on these primetime games, right? Because I think that this number is being calculated off that full strength Tennessee defense, which was probably a top 10 defense in the NFL. But how much can they overcome here, especially with an offensive minded head coach who's really struggling to get through to his knucklehead quarterback? Let's move on. This is a game that I have a firmer stance on. I do like the Seahawks +4 here. I do like the under here, and I believe that they're correlated. This is a tough game because the Seahawks are 3-0, but they played by far the easiest schedule in the National Football League. So how much of that is inflated? But let's look at the football side. I do like the fact that the Seahawks do have multiple ways to get it done through the air. You can't just simply take away one player. If you try and double DK, JSN is going to go off. If you try and go fairly even, Tyler Lockett's been huge on third down. Kenneth Walker appears to be back, but I've told you before, I think that even if it is Charbonnet, I don't know if it's as much as a drop off as other people do. And my concern for the Lions is missing center Frank Ragnow. Unfortunately for the Seahawks, though, what doesn't make this a slam dunk, they are missing 4 of their defensive starters from the beginning of the year. So everybody's banged up in the NFL, Tyler. I like the Seahawks. I like the under. Your thoughts, Tyler?
Yeah, pulling up his injury report again for Detroit, looking at it now. It's looking like they're going to be missing Brian Branch starting safety too, which he's been big for that defense. One thing that keeps popping up into my head spread with this matchup is Seattle's defense versus Detroit's offense. And it's more of McDonald's defense that literally blanketed Goff last year when Detroit visited Baltimore and did not let that man do a single thing. They're going to be missing Frank Ragnow, which we know Detroit looks like a completely different team without him. They get Kenneth Walker back on the other side of the ball. I know they're missing pieces on their defense, but I trust their defensive coordinator to scheme up good plays. And I think that they're going to be able to win this game. I think this is going to be their most impressive win to start the year. And I think Seattle gets to 4-0. So I'm on Seattle here.
Wow, Tyler and I agree, JC. We should almost just stop the show, but we got to go to you.
The other big thing here that no one talks about, the Lions cannot cover wide receivers. You look at points allowed, fantasy point-wise, they're 28th. They're allowing 18 receptions, 203 yards, an average of 13 yards per catch, and 1 touchdown on average per game to wide receivers. And now they might be facing the best trio of wide receivers in the league, and we know Geno will throw it 40-plus times. If Geno gets time, these guys are going to get open. Like JSN is going to crush this man-to-man coverage. DK could do the same, and we know Lockett will find open space. So I think Seattle's a lot more live than people think.
You try and run man, JSN and DK are live. You try and run zone, Lockett's always going to find those holes. And don't forget about Noah Fant, who quietly had 6 catches last week. JC, we both love the Seahawks. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and now they have the dual running back. See, now I'm interrupting you, spread the table to flip.
That's fine with me.
Man, I was liking Detroit tonight. You guys may have talked me out of it. I've just been unimpressed with what the performance Seattle has done, considering the teams they played. Obviously, they can only play who's on their schedule, but it's just like I was stunned. I mean, what stood out to me, right, is they allowed 20 points to Denver. They allowed 20 points to New England. And, I'm just those 4 wins, and then they beat, hobbled Miami team, and then, Arizona to open the season. It just – I felt like they were kind of overrated, whereas Detroit has played some tough games and they've looked decent. And I just felt like this is kind of after last week's win against Arizona, they kind of right the ship and they go and they take care of Seattle in prime time and kind of show them for the frauds that I personally think they are. You guys did make some really good points. Ultimately, though, I'm with spread, though. I think the under is a much safer place because I only had a slight lean to Detroit. I'm not like all over them. I do think they win this game and cover. I'm probably going to bet on it, but I am certainly not saying that with the same conviction that y'all have for Seattle. So for me, I'll just go ahead and give the people under 46 on this one because I think either it's a close, scrappy game that Detroit wins, or Seattle just embarrasses them and they win, handedly. Don't let them score much, and the under still cashes.
Final thoughts on the under. This total only went to 33 against the Cardinals, 36 against the Buccaneers, and they needed OT to hit 46 against the Rams. It's 47 tonight. Another reason I like the under. Final thoughts for the week, Tyler.
What was that spread? I was listening to something.
Oh, okay. I'll answer the question and final thoughts. So Tim, I didn't play both lineups. I did a showdown show. I'll retweet it with Simon right now. But a brief answer. I like a JSN captain. And if you like the Lions win, if you disagree with us, I think Laporta could be a sneaky captain on the Detroit side. Tyler, final thoughts on this weekend slate and tonight's games.
Yeah, I mean, the weekend was fun. I think we seen Washington emerge as the best team in the NFC East. Jaden Daniels, Rookie of the Year, is going to be locked up unless that man gets hurt. And tonight, I think we get Miami wins. Tyreek Hill blows up again, even with the new quarterback. And Seattle surprises some people and beats Detroit. So it's going to be a fun night.
JC, you and Tyler did a great job today. I thought all of the information that you shared was completely pertinent and accurate, except for your assessment of the Raiders uniforms. Your final thoughts.
I'm just hoping for a good game. I could see both these being really ugly tonight, and I was traveling yesterday, so I didn't get to watch too much football. So I'm really hoping I'm not tuning in to two stinkers tonight.
And last week, having two games came in clutch, right? Because the Bills smoked the Jaguars. That game was boring. We all would have been on Netflix or Amazon Prime by halftime, except the Bengals and the Washington Commanders gave us an excellent game. So I think that at least one of them is going to be worth our time tonight. Guys, thank you very much for joining us. If you did enjoy this combination, remember, give the thumbs up to Fanspeak. Head over to fanspeak.com to catch all the great articles that they're writing, and join us tomorrow, same time, same channel, same crew. We look ahead to week 5.